And welcome to the Leadership Mandate podcast. I'm your host, Ebenezer Mamabolo. And this beautiful afternoon, I am joined by an amazing woman. Rebecca, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Are you well?
I am well.
Sure.
Yeah, and for the men and the women by law, they never had a chance to look at the amazing work that you are busy with or have done. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. You and I have done this in the
many times.
I would be the one to ask you questions. So this is quite refreshing. So I am Mmatshikhidi Rebecca Phala. I come from Ramamabulo. There's a beautiful village there with huge mountains. It's always misty. It's called Masialama. That is where I come from. Largely just a sparkly, curious being, a storyteller, and just a person really who wants to maximize their talents. So I am the child of Mabi Annette Phala. She is the leader of a fantastic gospel group, one of the biggest and the oldest that South Africa has, actually. So that's my mother. And my father, stern patriarch and an academic, he has now since passed. He is Masilu Andreas Phala. I'm the last born of a total of 5 children. So we just have one brother, my parents' firstborn, and the rest of us are girls. So grew up with that setting of having these older sisters who you could say had already learned the ropes. So you could say that I grew up soft in that I always had a safe landing space.
Yes.
My sisters always gave me that. So the reason why I regard myself as sparkly and very curious, I think it's because that was largely nurtured in the home by both the parents and the siblings. But really just an ordinary person, but more than anything, obviously a child of God and a child of my mom and dad.
Wow. That is amazing. And I'm curious where this sense of storytelling comes from. Is it, in those moments, and then they'll tell us those beautiful stories, or when did you fall in love with storytelling?
So my parents came from 2 different worlds, and I think that's where the art of storytelling always then manifested, because as we were growing up, it felt like we were being raised whilst they were getting to know each other as a couple.
Okay, wow.
So in our family, there's never been an instance where the parents will sit by the side and the children will sit by the side.
Okay.
So every other day, like you're saying, would be hearing a story of how my mother, who hails from Mokopane, would have grown up in that very different world where, obviously for us, because we understand life quite differently.
Yes.
It started with language. So the people who stay by the side of Waterberg, Mokopane, have a tonality that sounds like a mix of Pedi and Tswana.
Okay.
So when my mom would speak, it was always fascinating because it was not something we would hear very often.
Yes.
And then my dad, when he would speak also, he grew up Bupalaborwa, so there's an element of Kilobedu, but then there's a bit of the Sipedi of Motapo, Mamabulo and that collective. So I was always fascinated by that distinction, to say it doesn't matter whether they tell the story of how they met, the story of how some of my siblings would have showed characteristics as they were growing up. A lot of it was always just interesting to see how they would use words. And so I think from there, the storytelling and the curiosity then started to really develop, to say, so this one calls certain things. When my mom says, look at that, she'd say, Edin. And then Renara Rwona Kua. So these 2 very different things, and how they, in their differences, would always warrant a certain sort of reaction from us as those who would be listening at the time. So it was always that, the stories that would be shared by the fireplace. But then it got further ignited by my paternal grandfather, Rahulu Trat, when I was around 8 years before. So whilst we're trying to just find ourselves in terms of schools and things of that sort, he really had taken a liking to me.
Wow.
So quite often he would say to my parents, bring her to Tabahone, on the other side of Ramamabur. And what he would do is every morning he would carry me on his back, and I would hold Gomiki cheap and would pass by Tabahone into Sahara and then Suhureng and then get into Men's. where he would go to enjoy varied cups of this traditional beer that he really loved. On our way back home in the later times of the day, he would start to tell me stories about who he is, where his family comes from. He was also very knowledgeable about plants.
Wow.
So when we start to walk into the mountains coming from Soring into Sahara and then Tabajon, he would start then say, this plant you can use for this, it's called this and this and that.
Wow.
The manner in which he used words as this elder for these things to make sense to this child that I am, also again ignited the sense of curiosity to say, so you know so much, but also you don't regard it as that which should be only known by elders. You feel a need to impart that knowledge onto me. So I think I grew up around a community of people who were very open in expressing that which is within them, based on their experiences, but also whatever it is that they've learned in their journey of life. And the fact that they opened so much up to me gave me a sense to say, it means I can always dig into people. I think my mom, if you were to speak to her now, she'll tell you, she says, I used to ask them difficult questions. I was just that one child who always had questions, but they always answered the questions. So that's really where it's always come from. As time went, my father then introduced me to literature, and obviously that opened me to a whole new world. That's the beauty of literature, right? To say it can take you to very different places. Yeah, but that's literally it. Having grown in a home of these two different individuals who had been brought together by love, and we're now showing us that whilst we're different, you are the result of our differences having become one. And that's really where it started.
Wow. You know, what always happens, especially when you've got this sense of curiosity, when you would go to school, there may be that one teacher who would want to get you to keep quiet, who wouldn't want you to make noise. I'm curious, have you always had support, even in academically, or were those one or two teachers, and all those other things?
So, interesting facts, I would only truly be my curious self at home.
Oh, wow.
I was having a conversation with a few friends recently to say, I am incredibly multifaceted. So the people who went to primary school with me, the people who went to high school, and the people who went to university with me have experienced three very distinct personalities.
Wow.
So the Rebecca that you would find in the home and the one you would find in the schooling system was completely different. And that's because our father, I think, was the mastermind of etiquette before I even knew what etiquette is.
Okay.
So he wanted us to truly ever be children in the truest sense of the term, only when in the home where it's a safe space, we can ask these quote-unquote difficult questions and be ourselves without the risk of being reprimanded. But he made us understand that once you step out of here, when you get to a schooling system, it's just that, it's respect and nothing else. So in my schooling time, I was just brilliant in that I was quite academically gifted. But my teachers never really got to see this sparkly, colorful character. My one teacher from grade 2, Mmatshikhidi, who then at some point called my parents to say, try and take her to a bit more of an advanced school.
Wow.
Because remember, we'd been in the villages. She had really thought that I was a very serious person.
Wow.
And that I could even pursue the STEM sort of stream of qualification if it were to be that. But it was largely because there was that sense of etiquette that had been taught in the home to say, once you step out of the home, you become just a normal person. You respect people, you follow order. So I was never really disruptive. I'm not like the people who later pursued careers in the arts who will say, I was called a chatterbox. My report card said she doesn't know when to keep quiet. I was never that. In the schooling system, I was quiet, speaking only when I should be speaking, doing very well. But yeah, I've always known what to do where because of the nature of the household that we're raised in.
Wow. And you know, when you come from such an environment, the temptation for some people, they would want to say, oh, no, okay, I'll be who I need to be when I'm at home and then when I'm outside. But then there comes a point, maybe when they would go to varsity or wherever, where then they then get the freedom. They get the freedom to express themselves however they want to. What did that do for you? Was it a change from the freedom that you got at home and the safe space that you had and then going into the wild there?
Sure, not necessarily. So at home, my mom, when she shot the cassette cover of her very first cassette in '94, when I was a few months old, she took me and put me in the front of the cassette cover. And she says it's because she always thought that I had a very interesting character.
Okay.
And I became a common feature until I was a lot older that would always feature in the front cover of the cassette. So because of how strict my dad in particular had been about etiquette and knowing what to do where, I, even in their absence, never had that thing of mom boni. I can now do my own thing.
Okay.
I only ever manifested that which they had allowed even in the home city. So because of that introduction quite quickly to the arts, when she would go, my mom, to do television interviews, I would be there. And I got exposed to that world, and then I started understanding that I might have taken in a liking to things of broadcasting and speaking. A lot of it was never surprising. What was, however, surprising was the lengths I then took to realize that which I had been showing in the home. So they knew I liked singing. I thought at some point, in fact, I wanted to be a lawyer. But I also really thought that I could sing and that I could pursue a career. I used to think I was going to be like the female equivalent of Denny Kay, I think it is. But the idea was always to say, no, focus on your schooling. And that's exactly what I did. So whilst I would partake in activities here and there, it was always within moderation. My parents were so stern in their guidance and conditioning that for me it was difficult to even act contrary to their wording, even in their absence, whether in boarding school and in AND. However, when I got to university, the issue in particular of broadcast started to really eat me. I remember when I did first year, Thobela FM was looking for people to come present their teenagers radio show at the time. And I've always known that this is a thing I want to do. I remember trying my luck, and I wanted to submit my CV. It was like a page long. Still had those hobbies of writing, those things. And the fax number didn't work, and that really broke my heart. But the itch just wouldn't go. So whilst I never wanted to have them know, my parents, to what an extent I was willing to go, that's when I think I started to retaliate against their order, because my dad's word was always to say, focus on your school. You are talented. We think you're talented. You can speak end in end, but do schooling. And then we'll see what happens. It can always be something that you do on the side. And I understand that they said those things because my mom had already been in the industry and they understood the dynamics to say, you can't really sustain a life out of it and things of that sort. But I didn't stop. In my final year of my undergrad, I started this television news channel on campus because I was worried that Limpopo was just not having opportunities. People in Gauteng could just go to whatever place really and start showcasing their talents. And so I started this platform. It really takes a life of its own. Before long, the institution then starts a parallel channel also for students, and that crashes me. But it also pushes me even further to say, I get that my dad wants me to really focus and finish this degree, but this thing just won't go. And so I ended up then going to Radio Turf, reading entertainment news, and before long then I got an opportunity to go to Energy FM. And I didn't tell them anything in between that whole process because I knew how big of an issue it would be. My dad also took huge exception to children wanting to pursue work whilst still in school, to say, but he would, in fact, in his words, would say, so why are you doing it? So for them, the understanding of work was to say, you work for survival. But me, I just wanted to scratch an itch. So throughout my basic schooling, I never really did do anything that would suggest I was retaliating against that which was the order in terms of what was said in the home. But when I got to higher education, the age of wanting to maximize my talents really did take me over, and then I got to pursue the career.
And when you grow up in a home where there's a superstar like your mom, I mean, the temptation comes with expectations to always be, a particular person, to always do a particular thing. And then there are these expectations that even the community may even have of you, that you should be this, you should do that. How did you rise up either maybe above those expectations so that you can also identify and discover yourself? How did you move around that?
Beautiful question. It took a while. You know, like I'm saying, at some point, I really did think that I was going to take the same route. I mean, the fact that she had put me on this front of the cassette from the beginning also made it seem like that was also her succession plan of sorts. To say this one would take the reins. And so that's sort of the shadowing that I lived under for a while. But then I quickly realized that I didn't like this. I didn't like to be the one to answer the questions. I would often be the one to say, but I wouldn't have phrased that question in that way. I would have rather asked it in this way. So I was more curious than I was keen on expressing information. Because I find that those who are like my mom, she's very well read in terms of like biblical scriptures, for example. She teaches the word beautifully. I just didn't have that gift. I instead had the gift of mining those who are like her to tell the story better. And I discovered that when I got to higher education, and I think that's when I just could not be the one who would really abide by the guidance of the home, and I sort of went my own way in that way. And the thing that helped me to strengthen it was their support. When my dad first heard me read the news, he was so happy. He said, I didn't realize this. He had said, I did say that I'm multifaceted, so the child that they would see in the home until a bit farther than I should have, in comparison to this young woman who would command attention, reading serious news on radio. Was like two very different stock personalities. But seeing them then warm up to it despite what was the initial agreement helped me to then release myself of the burden of saying, do I still need to carry on the legacy of Bomma and see to it that I also get into the scenery, pele, vele give mutuari duku every day, the 2 PC, things of that sort. So it was their support once I then did this dare tour that helped me to really no longer be under the shadow of what had already been established in terms of stardom in the home through my mother.
Wow. That is amazing, because, a lot of people then end up having this sense of I want to make dad proud, I want to make mom proud. So you end up not even charting your own course, and then it's later on, maybe they are not when they are not more there and you are alone, then now I want to do me. Wow, that is amazing. And I'm curious, what's 1 or 2 lessons that, as you reflect back on some of the lessons that they were teaching you, whether directly or indirectly, you look back at that lesson and you're like, yeah, that made me the woman I am today?
Humility. In my family, there were practices, my sister and I laugh about them now. My father was... So in my mother's side of the family, when there's guests in the home, the children shouldn't be anywhere near, because the elders must have their conversation. My father believed that when the elders and the guests come in, all the children must come. And then the girl children will kneel, not you'll kneel, literally your knees must hit the ground. And then you then start effectively moving towards these people, and you greet them and would make sure, and for him that was an expression of respect. Both of them, in fact, were teaching respect, because my mother was teaching us that you must understand that there's some conversations that don't need you because you're not there yet. But my father was saying that you need to understand our community as a family. You need to know who your relatives are, so that, to speak to your word, when they are no longer here, we know who else is still in our corner. So two very different practices, but speaking to the same thing of humility, respecting, and also understanding who is within your sort of scenery in terms of a family setup. I jokingly say to my friends sometimes that I find that now that I'm growing up, sometimes it's like the lines of having proper boundaries are blurred. Because it's difficult for me now to refer to anybody elderly by their name in a professional setting because of those teachings. However, I find that element of respect that we were taught of seeing everyone, of acknowledging them, of being compelled to see them for who they are and make sure that they also know who you are, has helped me even now to understand that humility will get you anywhere. A lot of people often loosely say, when you walk into a building, start by respecting the person at the gate, the person at the reception, just as you would do with a person of a senior role. But it's quite true. I have gone into industries like broadcasting, public relations, that when I first ventured into, I hadn't studied and or been trained in them, but I've been able to find my ground because of the humility that I was taught at home. So I never felt like, oh, but I'm talented, they gave me the opportunity, why do I need to? No. It's always been to say, everywhere you go, you need to respect people, you need to understand that there's so much to learn from these people. So it's a principle that I still hold very dearly. The role I have now in terms of work, I work with people who are much, much older than me. People who work for an industry that they hold dearly. An industry that's decades old, but also very male dominated. I've been able to find my way through the space because I've never come across as though I'm here to stay. I'm here to take the attention all to myself. I'm here to outshine everyone else. Because of those two teachings of know which conversation you can come into, but also always acknowledge those who come into your space or those whose space you find yourself in. And those are two lessons I got from my parents.
Wow. You know, if there's one thing that tends to happen to us, is that when you grow up in such an environment where you've got a strict parent, the other one is relaxed, the temptation is to, especially when you've got siblings, we are all competing for dad's attention or mom's attention, competing for dad's love or mom's love. And I'm curious, as you are growing up in this wonderful environment, who did you have to become so that you match mom or you get her love? And whom did you become so that you get to match dad's love there?
I think my parents struck gold in how they approached parenting. So my dad very quickly on was able to characterize us. So my brother was quickly seen as the one who liked to fidget, open the radio and close it up again. And then my sister who came after my brother, we never got to really know because she passed quite early on. The sister that came afterwards was always very hands-on. Your shirt button falls off, she fixes it quickly. So my brother, because of that skill, they took him to go become a mechanic. My sister went to study dressmaking. The sister that I come after was the one that would care for everyone. Upulaba to the show, regimen, how do you get your skin fixed? And then she became very curious about cooking. So she became the one that would do the cooking in the home and so forth. The other sister would be the one, paka. My brother would be the one who's outside fixing gadgets and whatever. I was the chatterbox in the home. So I became the one that would be, if there's a family gathering, you take me there, I'm already. I would be the one that would be moved around families. So in our household, the person who really knows like the family history, it's me. So they quickly saw, this one is a bit of an academic, likes to read, not very hands-on, like, never been my thing. But they nurtured that as well. I think because they were so quick to be able to see how we differ, it never felt like we needed to compete for their attention. Because when a car needed fixing, I wouldn't even be interested. If dad needs to take my brother and they go to Babailo Khametsi Gavene, it's their thing, I'm not interested. When mom needs somebody to help fold clothes and whatever, the one who likes fabrics and things like that would be the one that gets entertained with that. The one who likes cooking doesn't need to be bothered because they take pleasure in making meals, and then mom or dad, my dad loved cooking, would bond with them for that purpose. I would be the one who would then either get the books or just really never also wants to be too much with people because I'm always trying to find the next thing that will intrigue my brain information-wise. So when we then come together, it feels like this salad of a setup in that one brings this ingredient, this one brings this ingredient. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're still incredibly tight even now.
Wow.
Because we are so distinct that when we come together, it feels like this nice salad, and then the parents are just the spice and the salad dressing that's needed at the end.
Wow. Yes, and you said something very beautiful, that you never had to compete because they created an environment where everyone can get the love and all those beautiful things. And I'm curious, if you were to go back and have a conversation with Dad, when you look at the amazing woman that you've become and all these beautiful things that you are doing, if you were to have maybe 1 or 2 minutes conversation with him and maybe say to him a few words, what would you say to him and what would that conversation be like?
Sure. Difficult question. I hope I don't break down. I really loved my dad, and I still love him. I often say my dad was my first love. He remains my first love. So if I was to speak to him, I'd say thank you. I don't think I told him thank you enough. My dad he was special. I think for him, being a parent was not just another thing to do. I think he took it very seriously. He was very intentional. As I grow now and think about the possibility of having children of my own, I often say that I hope I can first know if I would be able to have the kind of capability that he had to love, especially such different children. Like I've mentioned to you, if you could call my sister or my brother now, they would all share the same sentiment about my father.
Yeah.
So if I was to speak to him, I'd just say, thank you.
Wow.
I really do wish that he was still here. The industry I work in now is an industry that he worked in. My dad worked in transport, in the bus sector.
Okay.
Him and I bonded a lot by talking about politics because until his last day, I was a journalist and a graduate of political studies. I never got to hear the story of what the work in public transport really entailed. And now, as we talk publicly in my role as spokesperson, as I often talk about, for instance, the importance of subsidization. He worked for a company that was subsidized, and I just wish I had an opportunity to dig into some of that other depth of him. So that's what I would say to him. I miss you. There's so much more I would have still loved to talk about. There is so much more I would have still loved for him to see. And life is just not the same without him. It's not the same without him. We all miss him. There's not a single day that goes by that we don't talk about Papa at home, my mom, my siblings, and all of us. Yeah, so I would just say to him, I love you, I miss you, but thank you.
Wow.
My dad anchored me, he anchored our family. He anchored my siblings on principles of love for each other and for our family in extension, and of respect. So just thank you, I love you. And I do hope, there's some who believe that those that have left us have transitioned into the other side, and that for some reason they still see what's happening here. If there's any truth to that, I really do hope that he's proud of me, that he's proud of all of us. We have really, all of us continued to stay on. My mom still does the same things. She still sings beautifully. She still preaches the word of God in the same way that she used to do with him. Yeah.
Wow. That is so deep and amazing. And I'm also curious to know about the example of love. You know, for many people, you grow up in a home where maybe it's a single mother or is dad alone, and you never get a model of love. You only go out into the world to seek. For some, they would go out, maybe find a man seeking for that love that they never had from their father, or to seek the love of their mother. And I'm curious to know, what are those examples or those qualities that you learned from the both of them as they loved each other?
My parents, in the manner that they demonstrated love and how they taught it to us, we don't have a sense of individualism in my home. And that's why I say to you, sometimes I, funny enough on the service, feel like, hey, boundaries are going to be a challenge as one grows. So they would always make sure, for instance, for me to know that my siblings' children are my children.
Wow.
And for me to understand that to be a reality and not a burden. And I appreciate that so much. Because as we grow older and encounter a lot of varied things, I've encountered a lot of challenges. I remember there was one traumatic incident I encountered in 2017, and my brother drove from Lephalale in the middle of the night to come to Polokwane. And not even have anything to say until my parents arrived from Gauteng. But for me, that showed me a person who immediately understood that that which my sister experiences is what I experience. Even now, as I encounter challenges, you should hear when my sister reacts after somebody would have offended me. It's much more serious than I sometimes even take it myself. And that's the same even with me and them, and in extension, their children. So it's this love that is centered on not ever feeling alone or romanticizing the idea of being alone. I love it because I think it allows me as a young woman to not even settle for less. Whether in a friendship, a romantic relationship, work, and anything else. Because they have, whenever I even for a second considered settling for less, in inverted commas, I then remember to say, but it means I'm settling for less for differences Maureen and Bomma.
Wow.
And that's problematic. And we always collectively make each other always understand that. To say, when my brother marries, he's marrying a wife for us.
Wow.
Although we will obviously appreciate that it would have been his choice.
Yes.
But when she comes in as a woman that he loves, she becomes a woman we all love. It doesn't matter. There's not even a room for us to consider what else could be thought of. They become our person because they've been chosen by one of us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the most comforting reality. And it's being taught even with the children that are coming from my siblings. Those children don't call each other cousins. They see each other as children of the same parents. They don't, I don't know, my sister's children call me mama. You know, my brother's children the same. And I think it's very comforting because then you've got this everlasting sense of belonging. The world is cruel. So it's comforting to know that when you've had a difficult day at work, you can call this one person who will mirror your outrage as though it's their own and not be quick to say, no, why didn't you do that? Because sometimes you really just want that. They can hold you accountable, but they need to also feel like they are on your side.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing right there. And maybe as you conclude, because of the interest of time,
Yeah.
when people see you doing whatever it is that you are doing it exceptionally well, the temptation is to think it's easy. The temptation is to think that if I had the gift that she had, I'll do it better than her, or maybe like her. But they forget that there's a cost and there's a price that you pay for you to be you. And I'm wondering, how is paying that cost? What are those things that when they see you there on stages, being an MC or wherever they see you, they look at the brilliance, but there's a price that you paid for you to show that brilliance. Talk to us about that cost.
It's a beautiful question. And the price is not once off, it's continuous. So for a person like me, for an example, when I MC an event, it's never just about saying, ladies and gentlemen, can you feel it? It's beyond that.
Yes.
Especially because I'm a person who feels a lot. So with every event, before it even starts, I always center myself and the feelings of those in the room. And so the common thing that I will often do is I'll start by either singing so that I can get a sense of where the energy is going.
Okay, wow.
Energy is painful. For people like me who can sort of see through people's energies, sometimes you could go into an event that has been premised on a celebratory note, like an event I did earlier today. But when you get there, you learn that we're celebrating women who were part of the women of 1956 who marched to the union buildings. And they're from Luwahomu, but the stories are not told. And when you think about what you've learned about the kind of sacrifices that they've gone through, those women, and then you learn that there's some of them who are from your own locality. And their children tell the stories of how when schools closed, they would have to go and work on the family business. And on the surface, somebody could say, but it means their childhood was stolen from them. And maybe it was. But there's so much that has gone into that, right? It's legacies. And this happens at a time when sometimes legacy businesses perish along the way, or they take a different direction. And so as these people stand there to speak, and there's those that are listening to them, you carry the collective emotion that is in the room. And for a person like me who doesn't just want to do it as a tick box, but wants to always curate an experience that will be everlasting for the people, you look through the faces to see who is frowning, why do they frown, and what is being said or done when they frown. And we are such a diverse people that one sentiment that could be shared by one speaker could throw off one person, and just having looked at them once, you can literally immediately feel them. And if you don't have an art to it, it could affect you completely. So it's a continuous price of this gift of speaking to people, because it's not just, it gets so upsetting when people then want to reduce it to a twang or a projection, and I'm like, what is that? Because you become a conduit in a room of this convergence of incredibly distinct spirits and emotions. People are burdened by a number of things. People are celebrating of a number of things. So there's that divergence of the realities, but the physical bodies have converged. And you become the conduit between that divergence and convergence. So I don't eat when I do these things, so that I am continuously on the most safest of base levels. Because I think it's also biblical to say when people want that which they really do yearn for, you have to starve yourself for food and many other earthly things, so that you are the most tied to a higher power, to be able to look into people's spirits and see when there's a need to sing a hymn, even if it was not on the program. Only to later have somebody come to you and they say to you, thank you for singing that song. You know, sometimes they don't even have to say it. Just by looking at them and their faces beam from that frown of whatever it is that may have frustrated them in the lead up to that conversation. So it's not easy. It's not supposed to look easy. If it does look easy, it's probably just Litawala Mudimu manifesting through those of us who get the opportunity to do these things. But it's incredibly difficult. Miboya ya batho e boima. And they're precious. Miboya ya batho e precious. Whenever you get an opportunity to speak to a collective of people, whether you're facilitating a program or you are always a conduit overseeing their convergence in that moment. You have the power to exacerbate that which already weighs heavily on them or lighten it up immediately. That's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. Doesn't matter whether you think MCs just make noise. It's not an easy task.
It's not at all. And if there's one thing I wanted to say to you, because as I've been thinking about us doing this, I wanted to say to you thank you, because I remember back in the day when we used to do other projects together.
Yes.
During our Q's and A's, during the breaks, you would sometimes ask me some difficult questions. And then I would say to you, no, I'll go and find out. And then I would go deep. And that study would take me to another dimension. And I would still go deep. And the one thing that always comes to me, I remember you told me this. Whenever you would go on air and you would be doing whatever it is that you would be doing, there would be the temptation that others would send other things then that you said to me, or no, I didn't show them to you and I didn't tell you about that. Because then when you realize this industry that we are in, you find a lot of men or women, I like using the words of Miles Monroe, are something very important that you should watch out for as a gifted young man and woman. Be careful of the girls or the boys, because they can destroy you and they can destroy your destiny. And when I look back at those moments when you tell me these stories, I'll always be grateful. And I wanted to say to you, thank you. Thank you, because had you not done that, I don't know how would I have handled that, Because as much as a young man, I would say, I would have handled it well, but you never know. You never know. And all of those moments that you and I had during our different shows, and you push me towards my greatness. I wanted to say thank you very much for that,
Thank you. It means a lot. I don't think sometimes we realize what truly lies behind the things we say. And the amount of weight they carry. So thank you, it means a lot. But I think also to then say to you, it's important what you've been able to do for yourself as a person who opened himself to the idea of what could lie on the other side of your curiosity. It always starts with curiosity. I mean, when we started, you would come in the beginning you would replace Ntlantla when he couldn't come in. But over time, you gained so much confidence in yourself, but also confidence from the listeners, that there would be instances where we would start saying, you need to alternate because the demand is growing for you. But when you look at how far you've since taken it since then, I mean, somebody else could have just ended it at just being this person who gets featured on a radio show every once in a while. But you saw beyond that. And we were talking between the sidelines of how your curiosity now manifests in the manner in which you are able to ask questions that are so unconventional and then are able to mine a truth that one would not have otherwise been able to expose. So I hope you know that that's another one of your talents and that you hone it in moving forward. But thank you. This has been easily one of my favorite, if not my best interview yet.
I'm glad.
Sure.
And then as you conclude, for those who are looking for an amazing MC and the amazing things or maybe they are looking for an amazing singer and you may want to tell them about Mom, where can they get hold of you and the social handles there?
Sure. So the singing is no longer happening. I think it was just a shadow under my mom's talent. I do backing vocals, I should rather say, for her. Yeah, but that's just a family thing. I don't think it's a thing I would do for other people. But definitely I should be a next MC for corporate events. I can't do these other ones of douche. Okay. I speak slowly. On LinkedIn, it's my full name's Mmatshikhidi Rebecca Phala. On Instagram, it's Lizelle Becca. On Facebook, Lizelle Becca Phala. On X, at Lizelle_Becca. On TikTok, it's Chocolate Brownie. It's just me having fun there. But I do share some important information there. I also have a public relations firm. It's called Prime Narrative Co. It's a year old now. We help people communicate better. This gift of being able to hear that which others don't hear is quite important. A lot of people get into a lot of trouble for saying things that are not necessarily wrong, but saying them wrongly. So I have an ability to help people say things better. So people should reach out in that particular regard. But on all the platforms, I'm quite responsive. So once they reach out, I'll be able to respond.
You know, as we conclude this, if there's one thing that I always wish and pray for, especially for my guests, is that may God bless you. May He enlarge you.
Amen.
May He ensure that all of these big dreams that you have, TV like we were talking off air, you know, may He ensure that everything that you are dreaming of and these big ideas that you are going to have, these big ideas that you are going to nurture, may He ensure that they come to fruition. And if maybe one day you are listing the business there on the JSE, you'd also invite us or not. Come and witness the success because, we did this, you know. Thank you so much.
It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
And with that, we have come to the end of our show. From me, na Ebenezer Mavolo, na Kulobe abi atladi, batladi ba morala sa bana matolo, na Gremodimo ba shimile, and we are signing out.